204. This is the facelifted version of the 4th generation of the Skoda Octavia RS. RS stands for Rally Sport, and this is the most powerful Octavia RS ever, producing 265 horsepower from this E8888 engine. In fact, engine bay has no space here at all. There's insulation here, washer fluid goes in right there, and in terms of the updates, well, they are minor. For starters, this car gets matrix LED headlights as standard, projector setup on the inside, indicators functioning at the moment, headlight washers. In fact, all 4 generations of the Octavia RS have had headlight washers. This is the panel for the ADAS, and blackened out elements have been given to the Octavia RS, but on this grey shade you can't really realize it. The RS badging here, the bumper is more aggressive. Obviously, you get 6 parking sensors at the front because this car has obviously got self-park. That's the reason there's one here on the side as well. This is the LED DRL. It says Skoda Crystal Lighting. Meanwhile, this is where you put a towing hook in case you want to tow the car, and this is very much functional, the air curtain. They've actually focused a lot on the aero bits of this car. That's why it gets these aero wheels for reducing the CD value, the coefficient of drag, but then you can remove it if you want because it doesn't look really nice with these elements robbing away the nice design of the alloy wheels. Red colored brake calipers. The front disc size is 340 mm, the rear one is 310 mm, so 17-inch brake disc here because obviously braking performance is extremely crucial. The brakes are shared with the Kodiaq RS. There's a camera there for lane keep assist. There's obviously a rain sensor as well. Blackened out outside rear view mirrors, and it doesn't get a camera here, so no 360-degree parking camera on this car. In terms of size, well, the length of this car happens to be approximately more than 4.7 meters. Meanwhile, the ground clearance is 129 mm, and the wheelbase of this car is almost 2.7 meters. So yeah, that's a decent wheelbase, and it has got request sensors on all the doors. So simply put your hand in and it will unlock the car. Obviously, here is where fuel goes in. So the Octavia RS is petrol only. The last 2 generations also had a diesel RS version, and that is the shark fin antenna, which is again finished in gloss black. There's no sunroof. Yeah, the Octavia never got a sunroof, the 4th generation model at least. Previous versions obviously got it. This generation has it. With the combi variant, you get a rear wiper washer. Can you believe that? That's something which Octavia has always offered, but we never got it in India. I think the initial generation probably got it. It says Skoda here, which is again finished in black, gloss black finishing here as well for the Octavia badging. RS badging here. Tail lights very similar to Skoda's latest design language, and there is a exhaust here. So dual exhaust tips, and if you notice this connected reflector, well, it actually has a red tape on older models, but that's become a Skoda RS thing now. It gets dynamic swipe indicators. This is the rear fog. Lights actually look quite beautiful. This subtle spoiler also looks quite nice and unique, again finished in gloss black here. And let's straight away open the boot of the vehicle. I press a button and there it opens, and notice the camera, it also has a spray. Now, this is 600 liters and you can extend it to 1555 liters by simply pulling this like that to fold the seat down. There's a fire extinguisher here. In fact, they have made these nice compartments so that you can keep your stuff nicely. I think that is the first aid kit. And below here you obviously get the spare wheel, which is not an alloy, not easy to access with obviously this net on top. This is actually the warning triangle, and it's a powered tailgate. So you press a button and there it shuts. Now in terms of space at the rear, well, it is decent because this car obviously is quite long, and there you can fold this like this, but the seat is a bit upright. Now you have the tickling function on this side for the driver because we have an accessory to mount the phone on the other side, and because there's this compartment, center passenger is not welcome. Even though he gets a proper headrest here, you get a center armrest which has got twin cup holders too. Meanwhile, nice finishing on the seats. You get this red stitching as well. In fact, the door pads are also slightly different here. You have got rear heating for the seats. Meanwhile, rear AC vents, 2 USB-C charging sockets, scooped out seat back, phone holder here. Space is actually good enough. Under thigh support is not the best. Headroom seems adequate enough. Light placement here in the center, and there's a hook as well as a handle. Meanwhile, the dashboard looks quite nice with a lot of sporty bits because it's all black, and red inserts have been added almost everywhere. In fact, you can also opt for 2 different interior themes. So depending on how much you pay Skoda, they will give you real leather or artificial leather. And you can also put this up, which has to slot. Yeah, there it slots. So there's a sun blind here. There's a sun blind here as well at the rear. Again, you have to manually operate it. Yeah, that can be done too if you want. Let's get out, and before that, let me show you the door pockets are actually big enough here. Hard plastics are not there because those are really soft pads on the door, and there's obviously a high mounted stop lamp. But what is this fake stuff happening here? I mean, why is it fake? It sort of looks like a air pathway or an air curtain, but it is not. Now let's get into the driver's seat, because that is the reason why you would buy this car. It has a one-piece sporty seat with RS badging here. So no adjustable headrest, but this is a very sporty seat. Nice finishing. I love the finishing. I love the red stitching as well, which looks quite cool. Canton sound system, decent sized door pockets, which have nice insulation as well. So obviously things will not rattle here. These actually remind me of my Volkswagen Polo. A proper dead pedal right there. Some storage space here, which is a very Audi thing to do. Meanwhile, you have the control for the headlight washer, and obviously the headlight controls as well, because it gets automatic headlights. It says airbag right here, and the sun is bright. However, what I really like about this car is that it's understated elegance, because the interior is all black. It looks awesome. Okay, let's turn off the indicators. The paddles could be a little longer. These are made of plastic, not really big. Here you get controls for the audio system and steering heating. Here you get controls to change the cluster mode. So that is the virtual cockpit. It's a 10-inch unit, and then you can cycle through a few things if you want. So you can change the cluster mode as well. I am trying my level best to change it, but right now it's not getting changed. It's a little disappointing. Now it is getting changed, because I was in the different menu. You get a full map view. You have like multiple modes. It's just amazing how well thought out this is, because it looks quite cool. There you see, yeah, phenomenal. Meanwhile, that's not all. You can also get to this racy mode, and there's a heads-up display as well, which obviously shows you the speed as well as cruise control setting, and it also tells you road signs. So that's nice. Skoda badging here. I mean, it should have had the logo, but they've written Skoda here, which is okay. And it says RS right here on the steering wheel, which has this beautiful red stitching. Meanwhile, a combi circulating around me trying to shoot this car. That's kind of funny. There are some physical buttons here. So if you want to get into climate, you press this button, and then you can get into the climate. There are not many physical buttons here, which is a bit disappointing, because you have to use these touch controls even for seat heating for both the front seats. There's no cooling. Laura is the voice assistant right here. And then you can get into the tire pressure setting. So there are various settings here: traction control off, ESC sport, interior monitoring. What is that? And tire pressure loss indicator. So you can browse through a lot of stuff here, because there are a lot of widgets right here, and there is background lighting as well. So lot of cool bits. The Octavia has become really very techy in that sense, and then you can decide what kind of mode do you want. This is actually for the fake engine sounds, I think. Stop start, lane keep assist, and this is for the drive mode. So there are 5 drive modes. You can actually change the drive modes from here. So if you press the button, you can cycle through various drive modes. Yeah, that's happening fast. And the self park button, lock the door of the vehicle. Nice material here with the red stitching. The glove box is decent size, beautifully lined on the inside, but hard plastics lower down obviously. There's a wireless charging pad here, 2 USB-C charging sockets. I don't like the fact that the gear lever is like this, because I want to hold on to something so that I can shift gears using the Triptronic function. Electric parking brake, auto hold. There are twin cup holders, but this one is actually so that you can keep the key as well. So they have given it a nifty feature here, but if I remove it, I can shut it. That's kind of nice. And below here, you've got some storage space as well. And this thing obviously slides ahead and behind too. Auto dimming mirror here, light controls here on the top, just press to activate. There's a sunglass holder here, so very practical. Skoda continues to be simply clever. You get a light and a mirror on both the sides obviously. There's a ticket holder as well. Yeah, lot of useful features in this car. Let's roll down the window, because we want to listen to the horn. The horn is also very impressive, but what's not impressive is that you have to adjust the steering manually. It adjusts both for reach as well as rake. In fact, you have to also adjust the seat manually, and to tilt the seat, you have to do it cumbersomely by rotating this, which is not the easiest to do. So full manual adjustment for the seat, and I would expect electric adjust as well as a sunroof at this price point. But I'm disappointed that has not been offered. So this is actually a 13-inch screen. Let's get into reverse. This is the reverse parking camera, and you have got 360-degree parking sensors as well. There's a very funky feature in this car. which I'll show you right now, by turning off the car. So when I turn off the car, I'm going to turn on the car by keeping this button pressed, and look at it, okay? The car is turning on, and then as soon as I press the brakes, the car rose. It rose a bit, so you're not going to be able to see it in this particular mode. They should have kept it much easier to go through these particular modes, but it is not the easiest to do it. And I think the reason it's not the easiest to do is because if there's a warning which comes on the cluster, unless and until that does not go, it does not work. So we turn off the car. I'm going to keep this button pressed and just notice the RPM meter, okay? There it turns on by revving all the way till 2100 RPM. So they call it the emotion engine start. Otherwise, does it have a soft limiter? Yes, it does, at 4000 RPM. Anyways, let's start driving right away. Okay, let's start driving. Before that, let me get into this menu. Look at the animation here. Isn't that super cool, the way this whole cluster changes? I love it. Not the cluster, the infotainment system. It's just amazing. It's phenomenally done. Let's quickly come and turn off the traction control system, for which, how do I get into it? Let's come into mode. Firstly, we come into sport mode, and I think in individual now I can configure everything. So here I am just going to make the chassis the sportiest possible. The steering has to be sport. The drive has to be sport, so there's eco, normal and sport. Adaptive cruise control, I don't care. Light assistance, I don't care. I don't care about any other thing. So eco, comfort, normal, sport and individual are the 5 different driving modes here in this car. And let's come into the assistance systems, wherein I see all of the ADAS systems in this car. But I don't want to get into that. I want to turn off the various electronics of this car, for which I'm getting a bit confused. Where is it? Where is it? This is also so cool. It shows you all the ADAS functions here.
3 days later.
There it is. Traction control off. ESC sport. Okay, traction control off completely. I had to press this button. I'm searching in the whole screen. Where can I find what I'm looking for? That's unbelievable. And now let's come into drive. And straight away, it's time to see how fast this car goes from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour, which means, okay, we are good to go. No traffic here. And off we go. Left foot on the brake, right foot on the accelerator, and off we go. Oh, wheel spin. Crazy wheel spin. Mental wheel spin. Yeah, that's kind of robbed away the acceleration. 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in 6.96 seconds, which isn't bad at all, considering Skoda claims it does it in 6.4 seconds, but because of traction control being off and a lot of other things being off, obviously this car wasn't able to put all that power down and wheel spin to glory like crazy. Till date, Skoda has sold 3.5 lakh units of the Octavia RS, which is quite an achievement. In fact, majority sales come from Germany. Almost every second car is sold in Germany of the Octavia RS. But I think rather than driving on this slow road, let's straight away head to the racetrack so that we can utilize the full potential of this engine. And trust me, this car does go quite fast. Now, obviously, it's not a track car because the steering, although is good in terms of feel and feedback, it has some artificial weight to it, which obviously robs away the natural driving feel, but performance is quite impressive. Look at the way it goes around the corners. It is something which actually defies its weight, because this car weighs around 1600 kgs, yet feels super impressive somehow. So quickly, I am going to change the drive mode. So the button can get a bit confusing. So here we come into the sport drive mode, and what happens? Obviously things change slightly, but not dramatically as such, and we are already doing 178 kilometers per hour before I get onto the brakes. Braking performance is actually very good here, and the tires also offer good grip, but I think slightly wider tires would be better here, because the problem here is simple. It's a front wheel drive car. Obviously it has an electronically controlled limited slip differential, but that doesn't really reduce the understeer to a great extent. So if you really go hard and fast around the corner, the front end is definitely going to wash out. But the engine has artificially piped sounds on the inside, which kind of gets to you because it feels artificial. Obviously a 4-cylinder engine can't be as bassy, but it kind of tries to sound like a V6 at least, which it is not. Obviously body roll is very well contained. Now obviously the car has been lowered by 15 mm, which definitely helps for better road holding, and the aero wheels also help to a certain extent. Look at the way this car maintains its line. It's absolutely impressive. It's so damn awesome. But the engine, well, 265 horsepower is a lot, yet it's not a lot. because the older version of the Octavia, the third generation model, had 245 horsepower. So after so many years, they have just upgraded 20 horsepower and the torque output remains the same at 370 Newton meters. They could have done something on that front, have a overboost function or something of that sort. That would have been amazing. But this car is not all about the output numbers from Skoda. It's about the output numbers from your tuner, because this car is like a canvas. The sky is the limit. You can go and tune it to the moon and back, because the VW group has so many parts available. You can put Audi parts here, you can put, not Lambo parts, but definitely you can put much better components in this car to make it go faster still, a bigger turbo, a bigger intercooler, and that's something which will make a huge difference. So this 2-liter TSI engine, which produces 265 horsepower, makes it the most powerful Octavia ever, and the top speed is limited to 250 kilometers per hour. I am sure this car can go much faster. Let's see how fast it goes around here. The way it changes, the way distribution change is well done, so it doesn't feel out of place at all, in spite of the fact that's a heavy car. It is quite a heavy car, and there I'm hard on the throttle and it says 90 kilometers per hour. Can you believe it? 196 kilometers per hour onto the brakes. Little bit of shudder here. So yeah, it's telling me it's 90 kilometers per hour the speed limit. I am on the racetrack right now. Please don't school me for everything. And I'm obviously making shifts using the paddle shifters right now. Red line's at around 6,500 RPM. Come on, give me a downshift. Gearbox is very aggressive with shifts. Yeah, it's a 7-speed dual clutch automatic gearbox. It's a DSG unit, and depending on the drive mode you are in, it will make a lot of changes or alterations to the way the engine performs, the way the steering performs. And what they have done is obviously lowered the car, given it a sports chassis. So it has something known as DCC, dynamic chassis control, with adaptive dampers. It's a sports steering wheel as well, sports exhaust, a lot of sporty bits here and there to make the Octavia a lot sporty, and it's there. But trust me, if you're buying one of these cars, you should definitely look at making a lot of aftermarket modifications to make it go faster still. I have driven a third generation Octavia RS with 600 horsepower. That's right, 600 freaking horsepower. That was absolutely mental. In terms of outright acceleration, this car will go from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in 6.4 seconds, 6.5 seconds for the Combi, which is like 0.1 seconds slower. But the Octavia RS 245, the third generation model, which was sold in India, it used to go from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in 6.6 seconds. So the car is getting evolved slowly. It's not becoming very powerful all of a sudden, because 20 horsepower increase from one to another generation isn't much. And it's not even from one to another generation. Technically speaking, the evolution has happened very late, because the fourth generation model also had the same 245 horsepower and 370 Newton meters of torque. So not much has changed as much as you would expect, but then Skoda knows that's all about giving people a well-balanced car with a good suspension, with a good chassis, with a fantastic engine, which can be tuned to the moon and back. Yeah, there's endless possibilities with this car in the amount of power you can extract from the engine. I wanted to just shut up so that you could hear the sound from the car, and seamless shifts happen, so you don't really have to use the paddle shifters. But a proper gear lever here would be nice, it would give me the option of using Triptronic function. Anyways, I am going to try and see if I can do 200 kilometers per hour. I cannot. I did 197 kilometers per hour. People ahead of me are braking like really very quickly, which is a bit of an issue. Otherwise, though, trust me on this, this car reaches its top speed relentlessly. Yes, it has been electronically limited to 250 kilometers per hour. It can easily go more than that, but then you're like, why to drive that fast unless and until you're driving on the German Autobahn or you are competing in a drag race, and then obviously you can remove the limiter there. They have refined the motor so much now, you can't hear much. And actually they've worked a lot on refining the engine to improve the efficiency, and that's how power has increased from 245 to 265 horsepower. Although the Kodiaq RS produces 400 Newton meters of torque, so 30 Newton meters more torque in the Kodiaq RS. And that obviously plays a big difference, because that car is obviously heavier. Plus, the Kodiaq RS gets all-wheel drive. This is front-wheel drive only, and there's a limitation of how much power and torque you can channel with a front-wheel drive car only. They've had all-wheel drive versions of the Octavia RS, specifically in the diesel. The last generation model had a diesel version as well, which had 184 horsepower, but the diesel RS is dead now. if you want to go fast, you have to get a petrol Octavia RS, because Skoda is no longer doing diesel RSs. However, they are still offering diesel versions of the Octavia with multiple engine options as well. So let's do one thing, let's get off the track and talk in detail about all those cars. So first generation of the Octavia RS came with a 1.8 litre turbocharged petrol engine with 180 horsepower. However, in India, that was downsized or downgraded, not downsized, downgraded or detuned to 150 horsepower. The second generation of the Octavia RS was also launched in India, but not as the Octavia, but as the Laura RS. However, globally, it got a 2 litre turbocharged petrol engine with 200 horsepower and a top speed of 240 km per hour. So the top speed increased from the first to the second generation from 235 to 240 km per hour. But in India, we did not get that engine. We got the regular 1.8 TSI with 160 horsepower. So the only difference was the cosmetic changes and the suspension change. However, there was also a diesel version of the second generation of the Octavia RS, which had 170 horsepower. With the third generation, it had 220 horsepower without the facelift. With the facelift, power was bumped to 230 horsepower. That's why it came with the RS230 moniker. And then there was the RS245 as well. We obviously got the facelifted version. It also had a diesel, which had 184 horsepower and all-wheel drive, which I've already spoken about on the track. And then there was also the same output with the fourth generation version of the Octavia RS, that is 245 horsepower and 370 Newton meters of torque. Yes, the exact same output with the fourth generation as well. With the facelift, they've given it a 20 horsepower bump, and top speed became 250 kilometers per hour with the third generation model itself. So slowly now the top speed has been increasing, and slowly they've also refined the engine. Now it's become so smooth and so refined that I kind of wonder that aggression is not there in the Octavia. The third generation model is still the best, but trust me on this, an Octavia RS has sky as the limit, because you can do so many things, and that is what makes it so freaking amazing. If you like this video, make sure to give the thumbs up, that's the like button, and also subscribe to the channel. I will see you guys in the next video real soon. Bye bye.